Okay, I will start by briefly introducing the four companies including the DP Group. As most of you probably know, please, Rose, Miss Dow, hello. Miss Dow, hello, Miss Dow.
Is front, I need back.
Can you? I will. Can you put mute? Hello, hello, please, Miss Zhao. Hello.
Maybe we can write on a chat.
Okay, I muted her myself. Sorry, everyone. I will start again. So at first, I will give a presentation of the group. DP Group is a project that started many years ago from two people who are the main founders of the group, Mr. Carlo D'Andrea and Mr. Matteo Ger. DP Group has now grown substantially, and it's made of four companies. The original company is D'Andrea & Partners Legal Counsel, which is a company providing a variety of services in terms of legal counseling, especially intellectual property, contract updates, legal compliance, and FDI. The second born company of the group is PHC, which is represented by myself as general manager of PHC. This company engages in tax and accounting advisory, and the main areas of services are the outsourcing of back office, including accounting, treasury, payroll management, and sales management. Then also, or mainly I would say, the financial supervision, also called internal audit, which is typically a monthly or trimestral service conducted into companies that already have a strong internal financial department, which need a little bit of guidance from outside to keep in compliance with accounting standards and fiscal standards. Then also M&A and extraordinary activities, which we do mostly in tandem with the law firm, and also some business consulting, which is spot activities required normally specifically by clients, and which entail activities surrounding the fiscal system, but also the HR or the accounting department. The third company of the group, in terms of, let's say, date of born, is Instant, and it's a company that engages mainly in social media management, events planning, and organization of other business events, for instance, team building events. This company is able basically to tailorize services for each company in a way that helps promoting and let's say showing the company, its products, its values to as many people and markets as possible, with the management of Weibo, Weixin, Facebook, Instagram, any sort of social media, and also the organization of events, which can be the 10-year anniversary, 5-year anniversary, or other specific events, including seminars and other business-related activities. The fourth company that came out from DP Group is Chance & Better. It's absolutely the newest, and it's still in its startup phase. And it's a company that engages mostly in relations with universities and groups of professionals. The objective is to try to strengthen the relationships between Chinese universities and foreign universities, as well as promote several excellencies around the world to both students and professional, typically young professionals. One activity that has been launched recently in this path is for the, let's say, architectural and interior design business, and it was a visit and an explanation of several excellencies in this regard in Italy. Okay, finally, after a short presentation of the group, I will start with the main topic of today's webinar, which is, let's say, the final amendment of IIT law. I know many of you already heard a lot on this topic, so I will try to be as brief as possible when it comes to things that you surely have already heard, and I will try to focus on the latest implementations, so the ones that were confirmed at the end of December and implemented as of January 1st. So, let's say, just a brief recap at first, as I said. The first amendment passed at in the middle of 2018, and it was a very raw amendment, which was shortly improved with a second one, which was sent out at the end of August, precisely on August 31st, 2018, and which was intended to outline the main elements that were coming into force on October 1st. On October 1st, the main elements that came into force were related to an expansion of the tax rates, an expansion of the standard deduction, and let's say a general understanding of which would have been the additional allowances for both Chinese and foreigners. Let's say mostly the allowances are now combined, and there's a single list of allowances for both foreigners and Chinese individuals. There are a few allowances that are a little bit more tailored, I'd say, for Chinese individuals, and others that are a little bit more towards the foreigners. But mostly, one of the main things that was the true intent of this amendment was to put on the same page, in the same situation, any kind of taxpayer in China. And this law brought a sensitive reduction of tax income for the state, but aimed also, or probably mostly, to counteract this income reduction, to reduce the tax evasion and, let's say, the taxation of Chinese sourced incomes in other countries. So this is one of the, let's say, practical elements which you might not have heard yet, but it's one of the minor but necessary changes of this new amendment. And it is the fact that from now on, foreigners will have a tax identification code very similar to the one that Chinese already have. Until the end of last year, foreigners were registered with their passport as a tax identification code. Right now, instead, there is a new APP, or application as we call, through which foreigners have to register and insert some details regarding their salary, the allowances, and everything else, and that is the way through which let's say, tax management will be conducted on a personal point of view from now on. So there is also a digitalization, as it was promised, of these activities. For this specific part, if you need any help, we can provide you with some guidelines or actual assistance on this, because our, let's say, tax and HR departments have already great experience on this, because they have done it for us for now. So for the categories of taxpayers, there is basically one main differentiation now, which is the resident taxpayers and the non-resident taxpayers. So don't get scared by this slide, because later on I will explain a little bit more. But for resident taxpayers, there is the obligation of declaring any sort of income, including the incomes abroad. But we know that until the end of last year, there was a 5-year window for foreigners to avoid this thing, and this has actually been not only confirmed, but extended to 6 years. So now there is a 6-year window for foreigners to avoid the declaration of foreign income. So even as a resident taxpayer, for foreigners, for now, the limitation is to the China-sourced income for declaration and tax payments. For non-resident taxpayers, everything is only related to the portion that is strictly confined into China and derived from China territory. Okay, when it comes to the liabilities for the tax declarations and payments, I'll skip the last point because I already explained it, but mainly the biggest change is that now not only a person is considered tax resident if they reside for more than 183 days in China, but they will have to pay taxes and record the incomes exactly as if they were living in China for 1 year or more. And nothing changes for people that reside in China less than 183 days in a solar year. For the formula, there's no big change. They say there's a new formula, but it's actually the same one. The main change is the initial standard deduction, which is no longer 3,500 RMB for Chinese and 4,800 for foreigners, but it's 5,000 RMB no matter which is your nationality. And the other changes in terms of the tax rates. The tax rates, the main modification, or actually the only modification, is related to the tax rates from 3 to 25%. And the idea is, as you can see, there is a widening of the first 3 brackets and a narrowing of the fourth. The fourth is only narrowed because the third is extended. So the idea is to reduce the tax burden towards low-income earners. Another very important point, which I actually personally stressed a lot in discussion with European Chamber representatives, is that until the very end of last year, almost I'd say between the end of November and beginning of December, there was still some uncertainty regarding the treatment of the annual bonus. Then finally, with a little bit of let's say discussion with the Chinese authorities, we were able to push them a little bit to let's say unveil this matter as well, which is the fact that basically until the end of 2021, so until December 31st, 2021, there will be no change in the calculation of the taxation on the annual bonus, meaning that the preferential tax treatment will remain exactly as it is calculated now, which is basically spreading the bonus as if it was actually earned every month of the year, and then applying a tax bracket which is the one of, let's say, the supposedly monthly income derived from the bonus. From January 1st, 2022, this will change, and the main change will be that it will be considered as a one-time payment within the month in which it is paid. So it will sum up with the other payments of that month, but provided an initial deduction of 60,000 RMB. So there will still be a preferential tax treatment, but not as, let's say, substantive as it is now, and it will be until the end of 2021. This is, the first part is a general understanding of how much will change the so-called no-tax area, or better saying, how much it has changed until now, the no-tax area, and it's now 60,000 RMB per year, so approximately 8,800 USD, considering the tax, the exchange rate of yesterday. This was just updated. So meaning that China is moving towards a preferential tax treatment similar to more advanced economies, such as some Europeans and the American one, providing a substantial endowment for low-income earners. So providing the fact that basically 60,000 RMB per year are non-taxable. So if a person, I know it's still a quite low salary, but if a person earns up to 60,000 RMB per year, the tax paid are 0. And above that, it's still low, it's 3%, then it comes to 10, and so on. For the special deductions, there is an enlargement of the special deductions, including especially the education expenses for children, expenses for further self-education, meaning mostly professional trainings, MBAs, other sort of degrees and academic certifications, healthcare for serious illness, housing loan, for which there have been a little bit of changes in the upper limit of this amount, housing rent, and support for elderly, which is mostly related to, or let's say mostly towards Chinese individuals who support their parents or grandparents for expenses. There's also the chance of deducting sums that are donated to charities, but not exceeding 30% of the income received within a solar year. This slide basically sums up a main concept, which is the fact that until the end of last year, there was a wide differentiation between the types of incomes that a person was receiving. So basically, if it was related to a salary, there were certain brackets from 3 to 45%. If it was author's remuneration, it was around 20% with certain discounts. If it was related to provisional services, meaning that you don't have a labor contract, but you have a service agreement, it was 3 brackets from 20 to 40%. This was actually, and so on. This was actually considered by tax authorities a little bit too complicated, and so they basically summed up all these types of incomes and consider them all taxable within the typical salary brackets. So from 3 to 45%, summing up everything in every monthly payment. Okay, as said, the procedure, actually this I mentioned it already earlier, so I will not linger onto it too long. The tax declaration is now done through application, but it can actually also be done still at the tax bureau, but in my honest opinion, it's way simpler once one gets the hand of the usage of the application to go through that one, or we can ask the other 2 colleagues that, let's say, master Chinese a little bit better than maybe we do. So for IIT declaration, there is only one main change, which is actually still a big change, and it's the fact that IIT is still declared and paid on a monthly basis. But from this year, so from 2019, there will be an annual consideration of the IIT paid throughout all the months, And at the end of the year, if some extra bonuses, some benefits or other elements were obtained in some specific months on top of the annual bonus, which obtains still as granted preferential tax treatment, for those other amounts, surely they were on top of the salary, so they were taxed with a higher tax rate. So the idea of the annual declaration is that until the mid of the following year, it's still possible to verify which were all the different rates paid throughout the year, make an average, and see if actually we deserve a tax credit for the following year, because in some months we overpaid, and then doing the average there were some amounts which were actually not due. It's becoming, I'd say, very similar to the treatment of CIT, meaning that at the end of the year there is an annual CIT declaration, and if in some months there was in some quarters, in that case, there was an overpayment, in the end there is a tax credit for the next tax payment. I will leave you just with some personal comments on this amendment, and it's mostly the fact that China is now under great pressure, as well as the US, for the trade war that has been going on for now more than 1 year, and so certainly pushing on to this tax IAT law was because China needs to boost the internal consumption and needs to boost the internal economy. So levying some taxes on individuals. And so overall, the impact of this reform is definitely positive, but we have to consider all the elements and be prepared to do some adjustments or to take advantage of some of the new allowances or new preferential tax treatments. It's all from my side, so now I will leave time for questions from anybody, should you have any.
Thank
Is there any questions? I'm sorry, I couldn't grasp. I heard something, but I couldn't quite understand.
Summarize the in-store education
in general, while people still think about, let's say, potential questions, I will add that the slides and the overall presentation will be sent to you, so you will have all this material to go through, and if by going through the material again you have any sort of question, you can get back to me or to our colleagues for anything regarding some specific tax elements or regarding the APP registration, for instance. I will ask again now if anybody has questions. If not, no worries. You can, let's say, slip onto this and get back to us anytime. We are here to help you on anything. We've done a lot of research on this matter and studied a lot, so we surely can help you on any issue you might have.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure indeed. Thank you.
I have a question about
Yes.
the 5, 6 6 years window. I didn't understand if this window still exists.
Yes, it does, and it's now extended to 6 years. There was a lot of debate on this, and actually during, I'd say, between September and October, we had extensive discussion about this with within EU CCC members, because personally I wasn't sure about this, and I wasn't sure about what would have been of the preferential tax treatment for the bonus. So we asked extensively to the Chinese authorities to clarify this, and in the end, by pushing a little bit, we were able to obtain and actually a better situation when it comes to the, let's say, tax break. So it's now not 5 but 6 years of residency, and then within the 6th year we have to exit as it was before the country, either for 31 consecutive days or 90 non-consecutive days in a solar year.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I heard that the tax break of 31 days, in difference from before, should be declared officially by the taxpayer to the tax bureau. So it's like when I will do the tax declaration of this year, I should state I did the tax break from this date to this date.
Yes, through the application there is also another point. You should state that actually you can include several details through the application. You can include all the labor contracts that you had so far, so they can have understanding of when you started working in China, and they can actually, let's say, do the math by themselves, but you can actually add this information and declare it yourself. It's actually pretty transparent in the sense that this APP allows you to share information regarding the taxable income and therefore the IIT payments, and it creates a little bit of your work and tax payments history into this big system, and I actually believe that the authorities will send out some sort of alerts or information saying you have been residing in China for now 5.5 years, and you should, if you wish so, exit the country to avoid the declaration of worldwide income. I don't know if they will put these alerts, but I think they might do further improvements of this APP. But yes, surely you can declare it. You should declare it yourself, or you should provide information sufficient enough for them to deduct it, basically, to understand it.
So, thank you for the information also regarding the fact that I should submit also previous contract. By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Paolo Colli from Pufinco Ciascio. One note that I find out, I asked my HR to compare December salary with the new and the old law, and I find out that the biggest advantage actually is for my highest income colleagues that can get a net payment increase of 8 to 9%, while the low income get 1 or 2% of advantage. So it seems like it put the pockets more in the not, I don't want to say the rich people, but a little higher. Not very rich, but a little higher.
Yes, we could say, I said low income earners. It's actually, they sold it as low to mid income earners. But yes, it's actually more towards people that were subject to 20 to 25% IAT that now can go down maybe from 25 to 15. So as you said, there is a substantial difference in taxation.
Yeah, because the low income, the workers and the basic employees, they already have a very low taxation.
Yes, for them the main change is that instead of having 3,500 RMB of initial deduction, now they have 5,000. So that's the main advantage for people that have, let's say, an 8 to 10,000 RMB salary. Yes, it's true, it's correct. The change of rate impacts more people that are towards 20 to 25% of individual income tax payments.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Hello, Tommaso.
Yes.
In terms of implementation guidelines, do you foresee any further guidelines being released in relation to the IIT law?
I'd say
In the near future, anyway.
I'd say further guidelines, probably not, because now the material that is out, it's pretty extensive. But they might clarify a little bit, in my opinion, regarding the usage of the APP, because there's actually many details that can be included in this APP. I've been actually trying to understand it myself in these days, and it's I wouldn't say fairly complicated, but it's let's say fairly complex. And it's actually an APP that allows you also to find jobs, basically. So it's a very extensive program, including many services, and some that I probably haven't discovered yet. But I believe further explanations of the different clauses of the final amendment shouldn't be necessary. They might provide them, maybe regarding the allowances, to clarify a little bit more, or maybe extend, hopefully, the ceilings. But for the rest, I don't think so. But for sure, we will keep on checking, because we do it on a weekly basis. And if there's any further development, I will bother you all again with another webinar.
Of course. It's just touching on the application. I mean, it is the digitalization of the tax bureaus, I guess. So I suppose there will be developments, if not in the near future, sooner rather than later. So I guess, yeah, you will be bothering us fairly soon.
Absolutely, and there has actually been several technological improvements particularly in the south of China, actually mostly in Shenzhen. We actually wrote an article about that, and there's some, let's say, applications of blockchain for the management of tax payments active in Shenzhen from the beginning of this year. So, I mean, Shenzhen is, as we know, let's say the Silicon Valley of China. So they are way ahead on technological perspective. But I believe that's the direction. To be frank, the bureaucracy in China is still extensive, and when it's paper related, it becomes harder to manage, harder to control, and easier to lose track of. So a digitalization, I think it's welcomed by anybody.
Agreed. Thanks for clarifying.
My pleasure, again.
It's your turn if you have some question. We need to more study.
Manuel, do you have any question?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm so sorry, because we have some problem of connection. I already wrote even a message to Carlo, because after Lunar New Year we are planning to arrange maybe an internal meeting here in SPP, so that maybe we can better clarify, because it was interesting information you provide us. But I prefer maybe a meeting face to face together my CFO, that maybe we can have a clear picture.
Sure. We can definitely arrange this, and I would actually send you an email myself. So for this, let's say tax and financial matters, I wouldn't say we exclude Carlo, but we might include him, but we don't bother him, since it's not my area of expertise.
Okay. Now, for me at the moment, I mean, I'm fine, but I have several questions which I would like to talk face to face. Also, my finance would like to have some clarify, so it's better we keep one time together and we make a meeting inside the company.
Absolutely. Okay. Our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I also give the chance to say hello to everybody. I'm so sorry, but camera not working. I don't know, and actually it's like this here.
We can suggest some very good IT providers if you want.
No, but we have, but we don't know what happened today.
Okay, no, it was just a joke.
Good evening to everybody.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening and yes.
We wait your PPT by email.
Absolutely. Yes. We will send it. We will send it either tonight or tomorrow, first thing in the morning.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the night, and hopefully have a nice weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.
Thank you for participating. Bye.